All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. So excited to tip off the second half of the 2023 season as we sit here today in terms of win-loss record, not where we had hoped to be. I'm sure everybody knows that. Expectations are high here for the Sparks and have no intentions of changing that. That said, we've dealt with a lot of adversity as a team, injuries particularly. And so as we've kind of huddled up and looked at the first half of the season and preparing for the second half of the season, I think it's been a good inflection point for our organization. Staff, coaches, players, opportunity to come together and really talk about all that we have accomplished that sometimes I think isn't recognized or appreciated by fans or media out there. But I can tell you that our staff is extremely committed to what we're building here, and there are a lot of really great indicators from the first half of this season on and off the court as we continue to focus on culture, focus on how we want to play the game, how we want to prepare our team to compete every night. So we'll get into more of that as we get into Q&A, but I'd be the first to say we're not happy with where we are right now in the standings and the win-loss record, but I think we're giving ourselves a tremendous amount of grace in terms of how we've handled the injuries in particular, and then just continuing to negotiate all the change around transforming an organization is not an easy thing to do, and it was never going to happen overnight. And I think we're really happy with the degree of intention and focus on not just what we're accomplishing, but how we're doing it and the process we're trying to really get ingrained here with the Sparks organization. So thanks for being here. I look forward to your questions. I'll turn it over to Curt.
Yeah, happy to be here, you guys. Great media presence. Excited to get started with the second half. I know there's games across the league already tonight, so wish all teams well. I reiterate a lot of what KB says. I'm really proud of this group and the handling of adversity. They haven't felt sorry for themselves. We continue to prepare and put themselves in position to be successful. Obviously, we look at our seasons as coaching staffs in segments, and we kind of broke up this season in terms of quadrants. And that first 10 games coming out of training camp, an exciting time, healthier at that moment, even though we were without some key players to start the season. Really pleased with that first quadrant, that first 10 games. While I thought we left a couple possible wins out there. We gave up a couple big leads, but we're at 1.5-4, and you could argue, if I would have pushed the right button maybe late, could have been as much as 7-2 that first 9 games with both losses to the Aces. So exciting. Then the adversity really hit and made the second quadrant difficult in terms of our personnel and the pivoting that we continually had to do. We've had 12 different starting lineups in the first 20 games, so trying to find a chemistry and continuity through that hasn't always been easy. But again, proud of their commitment to prepare, proud of their commitment to compete, and again, hasn't always resulted in the win-loss column. But individually, multiple players having career years, I think that bodes well for us as we get some players back. Excited with our style. And again, our conversations privately behind the scene as a team, really pleased with what we're building and the culture that we're trying to create, and have a locker room filled with tremendous people. Certainly, they're very easy to coach that way. So excited about what the second half holds for us as we get some players back, but obviously some grace that as players return, they're not going to be exactly at the same place they were when completely healthy. We got to give them some time to get their rhythm and flow back. But excited as we depart today to Minnesota and get ready for the second half.
Mike, we'll start with you. Any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned the injuries. Do you have any updates? You got another game in 2 days. Any promising news for Lexi?
Lexi is day-to-day, but she's on the trip, and she practiced today, got up and down the floor, which was great, looked good actually, and is excited and motivated to to make a comeback. So may see her Thursday, if not Thursday, hopefully by the end of the week at Dallas. But just kind of checking in with her today, obviously getting up and down, see how she feels tonight and tomorrow. But she'll be on the trip and hopefully get some court time this week.
And Curt, for you, you mentioned the 12 lineup changes. Any surprises besides that in your first season here?
Surprises, like what I've been happy is some people have really, had career years. So Carly Samuelson, second in three-point shooting in the entire league, number one overall in the league in true shooting percentage, is just having an outstanding year. So not surprised, but proud that those players have really carved out a real true role in this league. She's been the ultimate, as she refers at times, the ultimate substitute. She's no longer a substitute. She's really earned her spot in this league and proven that she is a really productive wing. And that goes Jordan Neka-Agumike, having career numbers and unseen, very similar to her MVP year. So while, again, we're going to be results driven and team oriented, just proud that we've been able to find success individually for some of these players, put them in position to be successful. And ultimately, I think that bodes well as we get healthy. We pulled up a couple lineups today, and what was surprising to me is a couple lineups that we really want to play. We pulled up a lineup that we played 1 minute together on the season. We pulled up another lineup that we want to play. They've played 4 minutes total on the season. And so that's a surprise to me that it's been that limited. And so I'm excited. Hopefully we'll get everybody back here shortly. As you mentioned, Lexi's close. Lajia's active. Lasia should be fully go for the Minnesota game. We have been without both of them for a significant period, so we're getting closer.
John Davis?
Good morning. Both of you seem like you have, long-term stakes in this. I know, Curt, you said you have a long-term contract. I, can make assumptions about you being that you have dual roles here. And right now you're just outside the playoff picture, 7-13. Philosophically, what do you think would benefit your organization the most when you talk about sustainable success? Either, not making the playoffs and then having a chance at a lottery pick, or making the playoffs and then saying like, okay, look what we were able to do with this team. If so-and-so free agent comes or so-and-so free agent, if you come, we can be even better.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think what we continue to focus on is what we can control, right? And I think one of the things this first half has really taught us is there's so many things in this business out of your control, and it's how you respond and how you adjust and your adaptability as a franchise. I think that's what makes great organizations. And whether we made the playoffs or not, we can't control how those balls bounce. At the end of the day, we're going to try to win basketball games. And we're super committed to this second half, being really focused as we get Lasia and Lexi back into the mix. Two really important pieces on and off the court for what we're trying to do, get them back in the mix and just go out every night and get better as a team. And the results are going to happen. I mean, I think we are a very results-oriented leadership team. This group of players wants to win. We just got done out of a team huddle talking about the second half and how we're going to do everything we can to make a run. So that's absolutely the expectation. And, but again, realistic about things that we can't control. But, we're going to make a push. And I think, in recent years, having missed the playoffs, if we can get ourselves into a playoff hunt position with the first half of the season we've had, my goodness, what a incredible accomplishment that will be, and something I think we'd be really proud of.
Curt, would you even know what to do with a lottery pick? When was the last time you had one?
Yeah, I don't know, but certainly, again, to reiterate, the players talking about playing good basketball first and foremost, and improving. Sticking to our pillars and what's important to us, but they talk about, hey, we're right there. They want to make the playoffs. I wasn't a coach that brought in to tank. There's no tanking that way.
It's not in our DNA.
Yeah, so obviously exciting. When I was here in 2015, and Steve Smith was on staff too, and we're here together, we started 3-13, and by the end of the year, I would argue that Minnesota and LA were clearly the top two teams back then it was still Eastern Western, to go to the finals, and that semifinals between Minnesota and LA was going to determine that champion that year. We were 3-13. So, that's a story in our locker room. It was an LA team that was 3-13, and by the end of the year, they were really hot. I will tell you, if we can make a run and get into the playoffs, we'll be a tough out. We will be a tough out. If we continue to have to pivot and we fall short and we're, into the lottery, then we hope the balls bounce our way, literally. And again, all a part of the build. This is not, we came here, we consistently talked about sustainable success and building it. My track record from the collegiate level to the pro level took a rebuilding year each and every place that I've been, and then the success took off at each place. And we haven't lost sight of that's the trajectory that we want to be on.
Karen, seeing that Nneka Ogwumike has been a staple to this franchise for over a decade, knowing she's on a one-year contract right now, how important is it to finish the season strong and kind of show her that this is the team that she can stay for the rest of her career if possible?
Yeah, it's really important for all the reasons we just stated. It's important for Nneka, but it's important for all of our players and all the players and all the All-Stars and MVPs and players to come after Nneka. I mean, that is who we want to be. And, I think Curt and I have done everything we can to try to model the kind of culture that we want and the behaviors we want from our players. And, we talk a lot about accountability. And I think it's really important that it starts with us in terms of kind of leading the organization and the way that we talk about and our vision. And, I want players who play here, who are here now, who come after the group that's here now, to really be proud of wearing that uniform and what it stands for. And winning is going to be a really important part of that, but I think it's all the other things that go around winning and put these players in a position to win, how we take care of them, how we treat them, how we engage with them, how we support them as athletes on and off the court. So yeah, I think we've made a lot of strides in that area, and it's going to be an ongoing commitment. But Nneka's a really important part of what we're doing, and will continue to be a really important part of what we want to do here. She's having one of her best years. I mean, her stats are just insane. We did an analysis recently where we looked at the top 25 players in the history of the WNBA in their 12th season, and she's number one in many categories. I mean, that's just flat out impressive. I did a podcast last week where we talked about how there's conversations around whether or not how this relates to her MVP season, and we're having a conversation about that in her 12th season and 7 years removed from an MVP season. That's insane. I mean, she's it. I mean, she's just a model player on and off the court, and so proud to be in this with her. But I think it's important to recognize there's a lot of other players on this roster who are making significant contributions to what we're trying to build here, in their productivity and their career seasons on the court, but how they show up in that locker room and how they show up in the team meeting that we just had. It's really special, and I just, again, the win-loss record isn't there, but that's not our only measure of success. And I think if you look at every other measure, everything we measure, I could not be more pleased with our progress. And, to the degree this is the first half of something that's going to be long and sustaining in terms of the future of the Sparks, we're going to look back on this foundation, and as hard as it was, I think be really pleased with how we engaged with the adversity and how resilient we were.
And Coach, I know you mentioned just right now how excited you are to work with some lineups you haven't gotten the time. Which one are you most excited to work with?
Not one in particular, but modern basketball and shooting. There's no secret that the floor has they've really congested the floor since Lexi's been out. Carly's having an unbelievable shooting year. Leja was shooting nearly 40% from the three-point line before her injury, and then, Lexi. So having more shooting on the floor to see it open up for our post-game, it's just exciting to get some shooters back. But also, some of those shooters didn't play with Azare. And so having that combination with Azare, moving Azare back the last 5 games to her natural position at the 4, she's been 14-9 over her last 4 games when she's playing her natural position, shooting almost 60% from the field. So excited that getting her back to her natural position, but she's never played her natural position with a bunch of our shooters. So just getting as healthy as possible, I'm looking forward to the chess match that I can get into. I feel like the chess matches, we started with the board with, lots of my pawns already off the floor. Like they just were not there. My board was not full. So I'm excited to get back into those chess matches, and no better. Like you get to start that first chess match against, Cheryl. I've always judged myself since joining the league. She had that incredible unit together in Minnesota when I first became a head coach in this league. So, no better way to start than, our Olympic coach, one of the all-time greats in our league. So look forward to getting to that chess match right off the bat.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
LA Times is on Zoom. They're next.
Hi, thank you. I have a bit of a random question for Karen. How has Vanessa Shea's departure at the beginning of the season impacted what you do on the day-to-day?
Long days. Obviously did not expect to get kind of pulled into the business side of the organization again, but thankfully we have a great staff on that side of the organization, and I had some familiarity with them because of my time as a consultant before I assumed the GM role. So lots of change happening on the business side of the organization too, and have a staff that's working really hard behind the scenes. But obviously the timing wasn't ideal, but I think it also gave us an opportunity to kind of inflect, similar to what we're doing here today, and really kind of reset the organization as needed to put us in a position to be successful long term. We have so many things we want to accomplish on the business side of the organization, need to do a lot more in terms of raising the visibility and awareness of the franchise, and continuing to bring in talent on that side of the business. Just have a new hire, really important new hire that started today. So it's a lot of time, and like I said, the days are really long, but I'm energized by it. As tired as I might be on most days, I wake up every day really energized, grateful to be here, grateful for the opportunity, thankful for the teammates that I have to do it with, the support of the ownership group, and just excited to keep going. I'm loving my time here, and the challenge is motivating and inspiring. I'm very clear on what is possible here. And I think when LA is great, the WNBA is a much better league, and I take that as a tremendous responsibility and a privilege, and we're just going to keep after it.
Let's go, Amanda.
Hello, how are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
How has Zaya Cook been adjusting to all those, all the different changes? Just like, and can you talk about her just ability to step up throughout the season?
Yeah, one of the written stories about is Zaya's one of only two players that have played in every game. So through all the pivot, all the adversity, it benefits someone in her rookie year. And like most rookies, there's been ups and downs for Zaya as she, plays against the best players in the world. But an exciting young player that has an explosiveness offensively. She'll be the first to talk about she wants to be more efficient and continue to grow. But it's like every game I get to tell her, if you can guard last game right before break, looked at her in a huddle going, you're guarding Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, and Jackie Young. If you can guard these three, who are all going to play All-Star Weekend, you can guard anyone in the league. And so have fun with this. Go challenge yourself. You see, this game's going to show you what the elite of the elite in this league is about. So it's the day-to-day that she just gets to grow at. And, and the game before that, it was against Diana Taurasi. And so, it's just the amount of experience that she's gaining. And again, I repeat, she's one of only two that have played in every game. So, again, we think her ceiling's high. And, again, she's only halfway through her rookie season. And I know that, people will point that her shooting percentages have to raise. But again, pleased with where she's at. Really, really coachable, and an unbelievable person. And that's what we wanted to build this with great people. And Zaya exemplifies that.
Anybody else in person before we go to Rashawn on Zoom? Okay, Rashawn?
Thanks, Sue. Hey, KB. Hey, Curt.
Morning.
Rashawn.
KB, I heard you say on the pod, success is not binary.
Mm-hmm.
How has the view of success for both of you sort of changed here, considering all the adversity that you've gone through in this first season? And then one for you, Curt. How deep into the bag have you had to go just from an encouraging and uplifting standpoint, kind of keeping everybody, still together, keeping everybody's spirits, still high, considering just, one major, one injury after another?
I'll go first. I mean, I think in terms of how we measure success and look at it, I mean, I think, like we talked about at the outset of the call, I mean, winning matters. There's no question about that. I hope that's stating the obvious. But I think when you have the kind of season in the first half that we've had with the adversity, I do think it provides you an opportunity to appreciate the other sort of focus areas of your organization. And I think it has provided us an opportunity to build muscles that I'm not sure you build when you're winning and when you're in a flow. And it also exposes things, and that can be hard. And we've tried to find enough grace with ourselves and really focused on just leaning into, like I said at the beginning, controlling what we can. There's a lot we can't control, and spending time and energy on that or pointing fingers, it's just not productive. So what can we control? How can we respond to what's happening? How do we do that together? How do we do that with intention? I think those kinds of conversations and those muscles that we're building as partners, as an organization, you may not have as strong of muscles in terms of how resilient you're gonna be. That resiliency quotient might not be as high if we'd been on a roll the first half of the season. And as we've talked about a lot this past week, this first half of the season, we're gonna talk about it down the road. When we get to where we wanna be as an organization, and we're having a very different press conference someday, we're gonna talk about what this was like the first half of 2023. And how this relationship continued to be forged, how the relationship with our athletes is being forged in the face of adversity. I think you'd never wish the kind of season we've had so far onto anybody. And I hope it becomes an anomaly, something we don't have to experience again. But I do believe there'll be a day when we look back on this and have a deep appreciation for how we evolved as an organization during this time frame.
Rashawn,
I feel like I'm really waxing poetic today. I'm not sure, but
Rashawn,
I believe it.
Yeah, I think for me it was, I take, something I shared with the team early, that I lost my mom during the season last year, late in the season. And one of the things that I come to perspective about was she was constantly someone that said she was proud of me. And it from an early age, and it was like, Mom, I had 4 turnovers today, and I missed 2 foul shots. And she was there. First thing, I'm so proud of you, so proud of you. And, I wanted to fight it. I wanted, what do you mean you're proud of me? I had 4 turnovers and 3 assists today. I had a negative assist to turnover ratio. I was that kind of person. Or, you're proud of me, and I'm a school record holder in the sprints in my high school, but I got beat. I was second. And, first thing she would always say every day was that I was proud of you. So one of the things I have taken from that is I'm quick constantly this year to remind the team how proud I am of them. And from some games where we've fallen behind by double digits and we cut it back to a 1-possession game or a 2-possession game late, or a game that got away from us and we were trailing in the teens, where a lot of teams with less character would go lose by 30 those nights. We fought back and kept it respectable. Didn't change the result, but I needed that. I needed them to hear through all adversity in this year that I'm proud of them and the character they carry with themselves into that locker room each and every day. So there's real intention to talk about that with this group. It may not change result. It may not really dampen all our feelings on disappointment on some nights that we couldn't get to the finish line. But they're hearing over and over again that we're proud of them and what they're doing to try to put themselves in positions to be successful each night, and that they're being competitive. So I think there's been that intent, Rashawn, consistently through some of the tough times that we've had through our injuries and multiple lineups.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go with Allie.
Hey guys, Curt, I kind of have been thinking about this a lot over the last handful of games, just coming up to the halfway point, and thinking about on day one, you made a point to say you were excited to get back to teaching. How much has that been tested for you? Do you feel like you've been able to fully kind of reach that potential despite the adversity, and kind of having to balance what you have available, what you don't, and being able to maximize that aspect?
Yeah, I think the challenge that we all see on game nights with the amount of players, we go into a lot of games with 8 healthy players or 9 at most. I don't know the last time we've had 10 going into a game, is like the public sees it on game night. What's really been challenging is the unintended consequence of practice, and that now you've extended minutes with that core group of 5, 6, 7 players because you're only playing with 8. Now it's time to practice, and you've got to rest some of those players that you've extended minutes at, so you can never practice. That's the unintended consequence of all these injuries. And not just us, this is around the league. The unintended consequence of limited rosters and limited healthy players is you don't get the practice. So the teaching has been less than I would hope. The teaching also becomes more simplistic. We've talked in the past where we haven't been able to be as multifaceted as maybe I would like, because you don't have the amount of time on the practice floor, the amount of reps, the amount of taking something from the film room to the court. So that's the unintended consequence. Unfortunately, the negative of dealing with adversity is it also affects you on a day-to-day basis. Teaching, practice opportunities, reps, being able to take things from maybe a film session to the floor. So it's been a challenge. And one of the ways to summarize it most is we've had to keep things more simplified within our playbook. Well, when your talent level is affected by your adversity and you're going up against some of these really deep and talented, healthier teams, at times it's hard to overachieve into results because you can't be multifaceted. You are pretty simplistic in what you need to do in order for the players that you do have to have success. So it's a vicious circle. It's a vicious cycle to when you have adversity.
Thank you.
Let's go next to Jesse Baruch.
Thanks, Jesse Barish, WNBA lead. And I wanted to ask, we've talked about NECA and the leadership she brings, and with her being the president of the Players Association and everything, I know she's heavily involved on that off the court side. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about another player who's mentioned leadership repeatedly this year, and that's Jordan. She's really talked about, we see what she's doing on the floor with all the top 5 stats across the board, but talk about what Jordan brings to the locker room and how she's helping the young players navigate this.
Yeah, Jordan's been terrific on and off the court. She just having a career year, and I think she hasn't even scratched the surface. I truly believe there's a whole nother level to Jordan, but she's shooting it as well as she ever has. She's really leading this team on the court, but off the court, I think she's finding her voice and her comfort is as much as she ever has in her career. I think she's gaining that on a day-to-day basis. So really, really pleased. Again, with Elena Deladon out of the All-Star game and Kathy selecting Ryan Howard, I think it's fair. I think it's truly fair that Jordan Canada was one position out from being an All-Star. Like, she's the next person called if there's another injury. That's the kind of impact she's had not only on our team but the league. The stats, speak for themselves. So, really proud of Jordan. We made no promises in training camp, and she came in and earned that starting position and really fought, scratched, and led us to the type of the first half that she's had.
And then any other injury updates on specifically Shanae and Naya?
Nia, we're continuing to evaluate. She's kind of going through a new treatment over the next couple weeks in terms of just trying to continue to manage and heal that bone in her shin. And Shanae had an MRI recently. I can't remember when that was. She's going to be out a good 4 to 6 weeks. She was here today at practice. It was good to see her and just have her around. She's obviously a big presence in our locker room, but going to work with her. She needs to stay off weight bearing for the foreseeable future and just kind of focus on healing that Achilles.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go with Howard.
Hey, B, Curt, good to see you both, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Of course.
I got one for each of you, if I can. KB, if we could start with just Jordan and Carly, who are two players who, like you said, have come in with, there was very little promise, and, you know, there wasn't necessarily any kind of guarantee as far as their roles. And I'm wondering, as you think about them within the framework of what you're building here, you know, they're both going to be obviously, you know, one's a UFA, one's an RFA, as part of what you'd like them to be in the years to come.
Yeah, I think when we talk about adversity and how it presents opportunities, I think, my goodness, those two, among others, have really stepped into an opportunity. And as Curt said, you know, we were very clear with Jordan. She was going to have to come in and compete. And she earned her role as our starting point guard and could not be more proud of her. And we met with her recently, and she's proud of herself, which I think is great. And I think sometimes that's hard for players to admit. But she put in the work in the off season, and just the way she's shooting the ball. She came in early today and was putting up shots with Carly, and I think at one point she made like 7 or 8 in a row from deep three. So it's just, it's great to see how much she's reinvested. And I think she posted recently on social that she's found the joy in the game again. Like, that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's a lot of what this is about. The journey that we're all on and doing everything we can, but to bring the joy back into this work. And it's a grind. We all know that. This season has been especially a grind. But man, when you can find the joy, that's what helps unleash, I think, everybody's greatest potential. But really proud of all of our players, those two in particular. And you know, there's a lot to be excited about. And there have been some surprises for this build in terms of how a lot of these players have stepped up and shown what they're capable of when given opportunities and given more minutes. And you know, as we continue to see every day as an investment in tomorrow and in the future, I just think that ROI that's coming back and how we're investing in these players and our culture, we're seeing every day. But we had a team meeting today where we talked about a lot of you are going to be a part of the core of what we want to do, and sustainability and continuity is a really important part of building success. And I just think, as hard as this season has been, boy, the list of silver linings is really long.
I will add, Howard, that, you know, unsolicited in recent individual meetings with both of them, unsolicited, they talked about wanting to be in LA and you know, keeping roots in LA. And so that's really exciting when it's unsolicited and, you know, talking about the future. You know, my focus is Minnesota, but it's fun when two core pieces that are going to be free agents, you know, talk about they want to be here and they like what's happening and they, you know, see something special building. When that's unsolicited, that's really fun, and so excited about those two. And it's a long way off, and a lot of things, you know, I'm not naive to think things can change, but really excited that they verbalize this. They verbalize what's happening. They verbalize sparks. So excited about both of their futures.
And one of the things I love is that, you know, we all chose to be here. Or at least most of us. Some players were acquired in different ways, but you know, those of us that are here, as we started the season, were really intentional about wanting to invest in what it meant to build. And you know, it as recently as just the team meeting a few hours ago, it's like talking about what that has meant and how that's unfolded, and that we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but we know it's going to be worth it. And that's I think a key message for all of us is keep pouring in the process, pouring into each other, and the dividends will be there. And they already are there. We just have to make sure we're continuing to measure them in lots of ways. But the wins are going to come. We're going to continue to focus on just pouring in. But you have a lot of players that have continued to reiterate that they wanted to be here, they still want to be here, and they want to be a part of what we're building here in LA. And that makes me super proud and super optimistic about our future.
And with both of them announcing where they're going, I asked KB 10 minutes ago, Jordan's going to Melbourne. I'm like, KB, do I get to go to Melbourne? And Carly's going to London. Melbourne and London are really, really on my destination now in the wintertime. And I just asked her probably 10 minutes ago about, we are going to Melbourne, right? So, fun stuff for the future.
What was the answer?
Congratulations in advance on your off season.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, lots of miles, and we got another young kid down in Australia, and Shanice Swain, and obviously Talbot. Steph is recuperating and looks great on film, and we got a lot of work to do still in this second half. We look forward to kind of the huddle at the end of the season to really talk about the third and fourth quarter of what we're doing here in 23. But it's hard to not have an eye toward kind of where we're going and building on what has been, a lot of silver linings and some success. If you look deep enough and you're in the positions we're in, there's a lot to be really pleased about.
Totally. And Curt, from your perspective, just sort of one small bore thing and one where I want to take you back a little, if I could. The Jordan true shooting percentage being the best of her career. KB talked about there's a joy that goes into it. I'm just wondering, are you seeing things mechanically? Are you seeing choices that are making their difference? Because it's across the board. It's not any one area where she's really doing it. It's really everywhere on the court this year.
Yeah, I think there's a consistency. She's put the work in. Repetition. Danielle Viglione, who was also at AU with her, it's a mindset that she knows she has the green light. And, talking about giving some shots up to getting better shots. But she's put in the work, and there's consistency, the repetition. Again, like she has the mechanics to be a much better shooter than what her early career numbers say. So just excited that it's come together for her, and look forward to seeing what the second half holds.
It's interesting you bring that up, Howard, because we met with all the players as part of our mid-season check-in, and in our meeting with Jordan, we talked about true shooting percentage and talked about that being the metric that we're really focused on with her, other than some of the obvious ones with a point guard. But and she wasn't aware of that, so it was fun to share that with her and have her show some pride in keeping that up, because I think that can continue to be a real differentiator for Jordan.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the other part, Curt, that I want to take you back to, I know you're focused on Minnesota, but 2016, you guys start 2-10 in Connecticut. You finish 12-10. And I'm wondering how much you reached back to that moment, to that period of time, as a means of being able to motivate your team, and also just to kind of remind yourself that, this is temporary and the wins will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that first year in Connecticut, certainly a build year. And you look at that last 22 games or thereabouts, we were in the top quadrant with our finish. And so while we fell short of the playoffs, there was a lot of momentum that built to then what happened those next 6 years in Connecticut. Was the second half of that first year was the momentum that really carried us into 6 straight playoffs, and then those last 4 years in the semifinals or finals. It all started with a good second half finish that we were really proud of. We were not in the playoffs, but we were proud of that second half. And so can we build that in this second half? Now, our schedule is difficult. We're on the road. We play some of the monster teams out east. It's not going to be easy, but if we can build some of the momentum, regardless where we finish in the standings, it is identical to what has happened throughout my career. Bowling Green, Indiana, Connecticut. Can we make that happen here? I'm confident that we can.
Appreciate you both.
And last question from Nikki.
Hey, Coach. Speaking with some of the veteran players earlier this season, they mentioned that they had some feedback and communication with you about what type of communication from you resonated the best amongst the team. And I've noticed in timeouts and huddles in the course of games, maybe the energy you started the season with, your delivery has kind of become more measured and calm in the course of a game. And I don't know if that was something you intentionally made a point to kind of use to make sure your message was delivered, or if you've seen yourself growing in terms of the feedback these women have given you as to what communication works best.
Yeah, certainly always a work in progress on how you connect best with everybody. Obviously, I'm intense and I'm fiery by nature. I brought some of that collegial fiery sideline to the league, and at times, and with some players, it's we talked about it today. Some it resonates with others. They don't connect with that. So there's really been an intent with my delivery this second half and through some of the adversity, while not letting them off the hook about accountability, and the expectations remain high. But there's been some real intent with my delivery with this group as I learn communication on what best reaches all these players. And we talked about it today, and ironically, it shifted towards peer-to-peer, player-to-player communication, and what best is, how do they all receive peer-to-peer communication, and then what they say right now before a practice in the heat of the battle, is the same thing that they're sharing right now with each other, hold true in the heat of the battle during the midst of games. So communication, our transparency and conversations with each other are having great dialogue as we get to know each other. And we talked about relationships today, and we talked about we're very, very new. We're still 3 months into this relationship, and you have that immediate honeymoon stage where everything is fun and great those first few weeks, even a month. And then all of a sudden, as relationships kind of fall into place, there's some quirks about each other that drive each other crazy as relationships build. And we're in that 3-month period where we're past that honeymoon stage, where everything is loving and everybody, it's so new and fun, and you have that honeymoon stage. Now we know there's some things that, about relationships that are amongst each other. So Nikki, we're just really learning each other, continuing to grow, and our relationships are very, very new. So we know we still got work ahead of us, but excited with where we've come and where we have the potential to continue to grow.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Nikki.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I got to get to the airport.